Hey, let's talk about some of the players, and let's do kind of like a Brandon Knight kind of, I don't know, maybe like a little magic quadrant, right?
Right.
Of maybe some talk about maybe some of the established players, right, that you see in the contact center space, and then maybe some of the up and comers or some innovators that maybe we don't hear so much about,
Yeah.
that some of us need to start talking about as well.
Well, I think you can't talk about this space and the established players without talking about Nice and Contact, who recently rebranded to Nice CX1,
Yep.
5.9, right? And you have the stalwart of you like Avaya, which you mentioned. Avaya is actually an interesting case because Avaya is the legacy premises based, been around forever, established, right? But they recently, as I like to say, in my opinion, they recently got it right with their cloud. They've been trying
Right.
for a while, but they recently got it right. Their cloud, their enterprise level cloud product now, I think, is a fair match for their enterprise level premises based product. And the interesting thing about that is it really was a race of them against them, to see if they could produce a cloud product
Right.
that
Right.
that their existing customers would be happy with. They've done that. Nice.
Brandon,
Yeah.
there is so much loyal. I think there's an Avaya loyalty in the space, right?
Oh,
That kind
absolutely.
of went away. Like I was a huge Avaya. You couldn't sell me anything. I mean, we were so pro Avaya, but then as the cloud, obviously that was an issue for them, right? And it seems
Yes.
like like they had their come to Jesus, right? So
Yes, they
they
did.
kind of are coming to put it together.
I think that's exactly what happened. But you're right. There are guys that were, I'm Avaya or I'm Genesis or any of the guys that have been around in the premises based space. And then you had Nice and Contact 5.9 come along, and I'll tell you who's been phenomenal. Nice and Contact has always been the top. I mean, they like to tout. Of course, they're in the top part of the quadrant. We know because of Nice, they're also in the Magic Quadrant for workforce optimization. So they have a lot of things going on. I tell you, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that 5.9 closed ground on them a lot last year and the last year and a
Mm-hmm.
half, and really establishing themselves as a major player, in the space as well. Now, when you move away from those guys, I should say away from those guys, but when you start looking at what else is going on in our space, so many companies came up last year, and I'm not necessarily touting any of them honestly from last year because there were so many companies that
Right.
were just trying to take advantage of what was going on. But I'll tell you, prior to that, UJET is a very very interesting company to me. I like to see when the newer companies learn from what the other companies were doing. Right, so UJET came out with this concept of following interactions versus it's like they took the omni-channel and said, why limit yourself to that. Absolutely love what these guys are doing.
Mm-hmm.
I give kudos to their leadership because they did what a lot of new companies don't realize you do. Even if you have a sound technology, you still don't have a name, you don't have a presence. So they went out and hired some industry professionals from competing organizations that instantly gave them credibility. Brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. Um, they focus on mobility and some of the new age stuff, so they are good. Edify is another company up and coming in this space. Sharpen, Sharpen is insane with what they're doing. Another UC-CC combination that they really have nailed down, and they package a lot of things together, which makes them good for mid-sized businesses. Edify with their usage based pricing model kind of gives you a little bit of a twist on that. And of course,
Totally
we
right.
can't ignore not necessarily an uppercomer because of their name, but Amazon stepped into the space, and we're not really
Mm-hmm.
sure how much of a player they're going to be. But it's one of those things you have to look at just because of their name, right? And figure out what's going on.
Right.
We found
Right.
that they're better.
If
Good.
they decide they want to dominate, they're going to, right? It's just they're got to pick what industries that they want to. But absolutely,
Exactly.
that's got to be a scary player for a lot of the organizations.
It is. It is. And it's a name that's out there. I kind of like the way it looks like some of the companies are going about it right now is because Amazon has, certified implementers, just like a lot of the major guys. And I still think right now that's probably the best way to go. Direct from Amazon lacks the support around purchase and implementation and ongoing maintenance that we need right now. So it's good to get that from a third party, at least for right now. But good stuff happening. It's good to see that. I mean, it's kind of like, look, for us, we've been in this a while, man. And now all of a sudden, because of
Yeah.
COVID, it's like our toys are cool, so that's fun.
Right. No, I think you're right. And the technology is, and the things that are coming out from an analytics standpoint, from a WFM standpoint, is pretty cool. Hey, one of the companies you did not mention that I think when I have been referring have been a pretty big player too is TalkDesk.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I mean, they're probably up. I would say, and disagree or agree with me with that in Contact 5.9 kind of world, where they're starting to play in that space.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it's funny because I remember when TalkDesk first came out, the knock against them was they're SMB. They can only do small stuff. They do this, they do that, whatever. I mean, I'm not going to name drop, but we know they landed some pretty big whales, 2019,
Right.
2020. So yeah, they're definitely in that space. And they're another one that did kind of not to the extent of UJet, but when they first came into the space, they went out and hired some big names, some registered names in the channel that are that help them a lot as well. I enjoy what they're doing, and it's funny because speaking of big names in the space, if we're talking about up and comers, there's a lot of these companies that started with niche. I call them add-on technologies. Like companies that only do AI or that do quality and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they're making a splash in our space right now. You talk Observe AI and Smart Action and those guys that are really capitalizing on how AI can change the business. I mean, they're not full-blown contact center solutions, but they're an integral part of getting it right. I will tell you that. So.
Yeah, I mean, and they've done a really good job because I mean, you can integrate with anything with this stuff. So that's the other. It's not just like you got to get this and it only works with this and this. But I mean, I guess in the space now too, even with APIs with things. But there's so many now. It's built-in integrations that are making things really cool and really easy for. Brandon, when we were with Avaya, and again, this is all prem-based solutions in the 90s. So I'm not picking on Avaya, but we needed a huge IT presence, right? From telephony guys and engineers and programmers and screen guys and people that were integrating in our dialer. And so we had this huge, I mean, at Expivia with 500 to 600 seats, we have about, I'd say 2.5 IT guys, right? Because it's crazy. Yeah.
That's crazy.
The cost savings is amazing.
It's amazing, and I come up, like I said, not picking on Avaya, but I mean, let's face it. Other than they were the only ones around.
They were the player, right?
Size contact center, back in the 90s and early 2000s, and I remember having an entire team of people, not just in IT. I had a team of people within the contact center that all they did was run reports and change the IVR and add agents. I mean. Could you imagine that? Like I had a staff, they had an office. No. I had an office with a group of people in them.
Yeah, right.
The only job was to make
big salaries. Right.
Yeah. It's hilarious to see now, now we're talking enterprise level software that you make changes by clicking and dragging and dropping things. I mean that's unheard of. So. But
it's pretty cool, and it's like when we started, we could have never done it, and I've talked about this a lot on the podcast. If we would have started Expivia, because we started as a startup BPO, there's no way we could have afforded it, right? And kind of the pay how you play model kind of really helped us, and again, it's a crazy time in a good way.
Yeah.
Hey, and I know this is very broad because you just named so many players, but what are the big differentiators? What's the difference between kind of guys that are established to these up and comers, other than not age of company or youth, but Why is In Contact or Five9 or TalkDesk? Why are they up here? And what differentiates them a little bit from some of the other maybe more niche players?
Honestly, I think it comes down to customer size and expectation, and really just brand awareness. I think it's only a matter of time before a company like UJet, Edify is up there in that same conversation. I mean, Sharpen is already well on their way because they've been around a
Mm-hmm.
little longer. But honestly, I think it comes down to people like yourself matching the right supplier to the right customer. The thing that I will tell you,
Right.
because you already know this, and this is really for your audience more than anyone else, is contrary to what you see in advertising, there is no one size fits all. There is no supplier that is the right number one top supplier for every customer that you're going to come across. So I think that's where you want to figure out I mean, let's face it, we talk a lot about Nice and Contact and them being the top of the food chain, right? When it comes to everything they do together. But there's some companies that simply can't afford it, right? Because of the way it's put
Right.
together. There are some companies that are looking to have maybe some of not all the bells and whistles that come with a Nice and Contact that they might not use, and then you have Five9 and TalkDesk and those guys. And also, it's where is the technology, right? We talk about Avaya and Genesis and even Mitel, those guys that were premises based around for a long time. Then you have Nice and Contact and Five9 and even Genesis and that first cluster based, that I call it a first gen cloud,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you have these guys like
Yeah.
TalkDesk and UJet that are microservices, running in Amazon and Google and stuff like that. So even that makes a difference, where the technology is. Do you need compliance? Do you need FedRAMP certification? Do you need outbound dialing? That's a huge differentiator, right? I mean, some of them do dialers, and we know, right? I mean, some of them haven't figured it out yet. Uh,
Yeah.
so
Right.
I think those are some of the things you look at um, when you're picking the right supplier.